Hey everybody, it's me, Josiah, Cynical Italian. We're going to do something different, but kind of what's going to become the norm a little bit. We're in the conversation pit here in my man cave. Today, we talk about live concerts. What were the best? What were the worst? Let's get into it. Okay, so the best and the worst concerts that I've ever been to. I've been to a lot. A lot. Like, I probably couldn't sit here and tell you every concert that I've ever been to. I remember the worst ones, and I remember the best ones. I remember a lot of them. But today, we're just going to talk about the worst ones that I went to and why and where they were at. So, one quick note, my very first concert was at the Puyallup Fair, which is a massive fair in Puyallup, Washington, which is kind of in the middle, sort of between Seattle and Tacoma. And I saw the Captain and Tennille and the Beach Boys, and I was like 8 or 9 years old. And it was like with like 18,000 people. Huge, but that was my very first concert, was Captain and Tennille and the Beach Boys. And I remember it being a fun concert. I remember it being a fun show. Captain and Tennille, I remember, were really fun. And back then the Beach Boys were still really popular. So, I mean, you got to remember this was in the end of the 70s, beginning of the 80s. So, yeah. Anyways, my concert tour has gone all over the states, from small 500-person venues up to 60, 70,000 mega arenas. And I have seen everybody from Metallica to Michael Jackson and Janet Jackson and the Beastie Boys and the Presidents of the United States and even some country acts. But here is my list of 7 worst concerts that I've ever been to. Ironically, number 7 on our list happens to be the band that I'm wearing right here, Mudvayne. I have seen Mudvayne 4 times live. 3 of the 4 times were absolutely phenomenal. I would go to them again. This was a few years ago at the Arizona Financial Theater in Phoenix, Arizona, with a crowd of about 5,000 people. The venue itself, I would say, has bad juju, except for I've seen a couple of other bands there that were great. They were great concerts, so it's not the venue. The problem with this show, this Mudvayne show in particular, this was right shortly after Mudvayne got back together recently, and they were doing their first tour back together, and Chad Gray, the lead singer, was sick. And we were pretty close to the stage, and the problem with it was that he was singing like they did a Mudvayne show, but he was so sick that in between every time when he took a breath, he would be like just hawking big, nasty snot loogies on the stage because he was so sick and he was so stuffed up. You could hear it in his voice, and he was just constantly through the whole show. And it really was a downer because I was really pumped to see Mudvayne again because they'd been broken up for years. And so for them to come back, and then my first experience with the returning Mudvayne was a disaster. Now, double ironic, the next concert on my list, number 6, Mudvayne actually saved the show. So this took place at the White River Amphitheater, just outside of Seattle, Washington. It was about 20,000 people, and it was a Slipknot show. And Mudvayne was the co-headliner, and Mudvayne came on first. And Mudvayne did amazing. It was the first time that I'd ever seen Mudvayne. This was back in like 2007, something like that. And Mudvayne was killing it. But Mudvayne kept playing, and they kept playing, and they kept playing. And the person I was there with, I said, do they normally do this long of a set? Like they've been on stage for 2 hours, over 2 hours. And she said to me, no, this is long. And so Mudvayne finally stopped, and we're waiting for Slipknot. This was going to be the first time I was ever going to see Slipknot live. I was super pumped. And there was dead time on stage. Normally when they take the last band stuff off and bring the new band stuff on, or they move stuff out of the way and the headline band stuff is there. Because it was dual headlines, they would move stuff off and then bring Slipknot stuff on. Well, they start taking Mudvayne stuff off. Well, then they start rolling up the carpets on the stage and taking it off. And then they're taking all of the electrical off the stage. And I'm thinking to myself, like, this is a lot. I'm in the music and entertainment industry. I've set up concerts. I've done shows. They're doing full teardown like it's over. And we keep watching, and full lights on the stage, which is not normal. They haven't turned the lights on in the amphitheater yet, but the stage is fully lit, and they are completely gutting the stage. And then after probably 20 minutes or so, the Slipknot guys come out. All of them come out without masks on, stand in a line, and Corey Taylor proceeds to grab the microphone and tell us that he's sorry. But at that point in time, the drummer was still Joey Jordison, who has since overdosed and passed away. Joey, during the Mudvayne portion of the show, decided to OD backstage and was taken to the hospital. So Slipknot was not going to be performing. That sucked. Now, the only good thing to that was that Slipknot did honor our tickets, and they came back like 6 or 7 months later and did a ridiculously awesome show. But we had to wait like almost another year. But yeah, so that's number 6 on my list. Slipknot, the concert that didn't happen because Joey Jordison OD'd backstage before they came on. Yeah. So number 4, worst shows In This Moment. I've seen In This Moment a couple of times. I have some gripes about In This Moment. They're an awesome band. I love the sound of their music, and their concerts are cool because if you know anything about In This Moment, every song is themed, and she does full costume changes, stage changes for every song. So every song live is like a music video. My gripes have always been with them, though, that they pump just a ton of smoke always. And so you're just kind of seeing bodies and figures up there. Even if you're really close, there's still never a clear view of Maria or the rest of the guys. But this particular show was, again, in Phoenix, Arizona at the Arizona Federal Building. And about 5,000 people. I can't remember who the opening band was, but they were pretty good. And then it took a minute for In This Moment to come on, but when they came on, things looked different. The guys didn't look. So if you've ever seen In This Moment, the band looks kind of like Rob Zombie, like blackface, dreads, all dirty clothes, just black silhouette guys, painted mud, dirt all over their faces and skin. That wasn't what came out. And Maria starts doing her songs. Well, then we start realizing that's the band from the band that we just listened to. Come to find out, the entire band got COVID on their way to Phoenix. And so the opening band knew about 6 In This Moment songs. And so That's what we got. We got a shrunken show of 6 songs from a band that wasn't in this moment, with Maria doing her costume changes and singing, and Too Much Smoke to see her, and it was an absolute cluster. So that was my 4th worst live concert. Number 3 on my list goes to Motley Crue. Now, I saw Motley Crue way back in the late 80s. They were great. This was 2014. It was at the Spokane Arena in Spokane, Washington, with about 12,000 people. The only cool thing about the entire show was this was the year that Tommy Lee had his roller coaster drum kit. And so what it was it was a drum kit that started on the stage and went all the way up into the rafters, and then literally was spun, 5 stories in the air or whatever, and then was a roller coaster that came all the way across over the top of the entire floor crowd and ended up him right in front of, almost touchable to the nosebleed cheap seats at the other end of the arena at the roof. And then it went back down. That was cool. But Vince Neil cannot sing. He did not sing anything through the whole show. You couldn't understand a word he was saying. It was mumble jabber, and the crowd sang almost all the songs. The band sounded good. Vince Neil was trash. It was a trash concert. And everything that I've heard since then is that really all of their tours are just money grabs. They're absolutely horrible. Absolutely horrible. You had to have seen Motley Crue back in the day. They're not the same crew anymore. It was a sad day. So, number 2 on my list, probably one of the most popular rock bands in all of the world. We're talking about none other than Metallica. I have seen Metallica 3 times live, all 3 times at mega stadiums. And this one was at Cardinal Stadium in Phoenix, Arizona, with about 60,000 people. It was the absolute worst sound system I have ever heard in my life. We had cheap seats. We were on the upper level, but we were at the bottom of the upper level, and everything just reverbed and echoed, and you couldn't hear anything. It was just this wall of music and noise. At one point we left and went down. Cardinal Stadium has a whole mezzanine that sits at the center level that's open to the field. And so we went down onto that. It wasn't any better, and didn't matter if we walked around to the side and got closer to the stage or towards the back. It sounded like absolute trash. I had a friend who was part of security at Cardinal Stadium, and they hooked us up, and we went down along the side and went down into the lower bowl. And it was worse up top, but it wasn't much better down below. Cardinal Stadium, worst sound system ever. Absolutely ruined that Metallica concert. Yeah, that was bad. So my number 1 worst concert that I wish I'd have gotten my money back. Tool. This was again back in 2007. Tool had 2 shows. Tool was on tour, and they were doing a show Saturday night in Seattle and then Sunday night in Portland. Now, if you know anything about Seattle or Portland, it's about a 3.5-hour drive between the 2 cities. I lived smack dab in the middle between the 2 cities. And we chose, I was DJing, and my career was huge. I was busy Saturday night. I was booked. So I had a gig. I had a show of my own to put on Saturday night. And so we got the Sunday night tickets for Portland at the Rose Garden with 20,000 other people. super excited to go. Big Tool fan. Let's get on this. Jumped in the car, went to Portland, had our day, had a great day. Get to the Rose Garden, get inside, get to our seats. We got really good seats. Everything's great. I don't remember who the opening band was to save my life. I couldn't tell you. I have no idea. And then there was a long, long wait in between, and that sucked. And then the lights kind of came up, and there were really dull spotlights on the band. But there was a spotlight like on each person. And then there was no spotlight in the center. There was no microphone in the center. And then it was this crazy light show, laser lights. The whole inside of the Rose Garden just lit up. Music starts playing. It's Tool music. Sounds great. Then I notice, now we start hearing Maynard sing, but I'm not seeing Maynard on the stage. And I look, the back wall is like these TV screens, and standing to the left of the drum kit back against the TV screen is Maynard, and he's crowd singing and everything. Again, Maynard put on what I was told was one of the best shows of the tour in Seattle Saturday night. Messed up his vocal cords and couldn't sing on Sunday at my show in Portland at the Rose Garden. And so he sat in the back, and it became basically an instrumental sing-along laser light show. I had never been so upset at a concert in my life. It was the most ridiculous thing ever. God, it was horrible. So anyways, those are my 7 worst concerts that I've ever been to. Yeah, all the bands are great. Like the only band on this list that I would not go see again is Motley Crue, just because I know that there's nothing that you can do to make the experience better. It's only going to be worse than what I saw. So yeah, but the rest of these bands I would go see again without hesitation. I'm a little apprehensive about In This Moment, just because the 3 times that I've seen it, it always is way too foggy, and just I don't like the vibe of it. If I just wanted to listen to the music and not see a show, I'd just sit in the car and listen to the music. You know what I mean? Yeah. So the other notable one was Slipknot at the Phoenix Amphitheater. And my only downfall to that was that the people up on the grass lit all of the rental chairs on fire, and it was national news. It was all over the place. Yep, I was at that show. My wife and I were there, and it was not far behind us, and they had no way to put it out, and it became this massive. It was so massive that the band had to leave the stage for a half an hour, 45 minutes, and they couldn't get water or fire extinguishers or anything to this. They rented out these wooden canvas chairs to the people on the lawn, which I'd never seen happen before, and they rented them out, and the drunks started a bonfire in the middle of the grassy hill. And when I say bonfire, like, it looked like it was a building on fire. It was 30-foot flames, probably 20 feet around, circle. It was absolutely massive, and it took about 45 minutes to put it out. And Slipknot left the stage, and Slipknot did come back and finish, but they had to shorten the set, and the best song that they play, they didn't play because they didn't want to hype the crowd up again and get the crowd going. So the song that you really go there for, the big interactive with the band and the crowd, they didn't do it, and that sucked. But anyways, I'm starting to ramble. Those were my worst. I'm Josiah, cynical Italian. Stick around. We'll do the best next.